So what I've got here is a streamer, and we're going to try, this is a fairly heavy fly, and we're going to try and plumb the depths a little bit. My theory is that these bigger fish don't get to that size by eating some of the insects that we've seen today, but they get that size by eating the small fish. We hear quite often on rivers like this that the biggest brown trout caught every year are caught on salmon flies and peel flies fished at night or in spates. And I'm convinced that they are hunting other fish. So I like to fish a method like this every now and again by way of a change. And this is a perfect place to do it. Some depth, some good habitat. You never know what's going to be around. So we're just going to have a try. That's all I'm going to do is pitch it in there and move it out. I'm looking for aggression. That's what I'm trying to trigger, is an aggressive response. So I tend to move the fly fairly quickly. I've got lighter ones then. Should we start snagging up on the riverbed, I can go down a size in the same way as we did with the nymphs. And I'm just going to pull it through this deep water. Pitch it. Oop, oh, I had a take then. Just as it hit the water. You get that a fair bit with these streamers as well. You'll just get a snatch, just a quick take. It's not one for the purists, this one. You certainly wouldn't want to be fishing this on a chalk stream or something like that. And I think you've got to be fairly brave with the casting as well. You've got to really get in under those trees and into the lies that these fish are likely to occupy. It's worth retrieving the fly right the way back so that you can see it as well, because these fish will sometimes follow. I've had some hair-raising moments when I've seen big fish chasing these streamers right the way back to my feet. And then having to make a decision right at the last minute whether to take it or to turn away. This is a great tactic if you do think there might be some peel around after a good drop of rain. You can fish them as the kind of traditional salmon down and across type technique. And I'm really just varying the retrieve, just trying to trigger that aggressive response. This is the real deep bit here. Oop, yeah, little take then. Just a little tweak. Trying to get that fly in as tight as I can. I'm in the trees again, but you've got to be fairly brave and accept the fact you're going to lose one or two. I'll go from here. You can imagine all the little brown trout running away and hiding when they see this monster coming through there. You'd be absolutely surprised how even the small ones will follow and nip and splash at it. I think you can waste a lot of time on these really slow pools fishing for trout when there's not much going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this streamer through again. Just going to have a quick couple of casts here on the tail. On a normal flow, when the river's at its normal level, this tail does hold fish, and there is a lot more flow to it than we can see today, and it is worth fishing then with conventional methods. Today though, it's almost stationary. The wind seems to be driving it along, so I'm not going to waste too much time here. I'm just going to drag this streamer through and see Again, I'm more interested in the moving water at the head. But whilst we're here, you never know. So I'm going to find a couple of longer casts now and just leave it sink a little bit to get a little bit more depth. I mean, this thing does weigh a ton anyway, but not today. Definitely a tactic that's worth trying though. Really is. You might only get one take, but it might be the biggest fish in the pool. That's what you've got to hope for, isn't it? But not today. Probably something to bear in mind when you visit Castle Hill is this area is a busy working farm, as you can see behind me. Expect to find cows there, and those cows are controlled by electric fencing. So you will come across some fences that might be on. So you just need to bear that in mind. I've certainly never had any bad experiences with the cattle here at all. But you just need to bear in mind that there are cattle, there are electric fences, and there are the odd bit of, or there is the odd bit of barbed wire as well. So just bear that in mind. Sometimes when I bring anglers down onto the river, they see something like this, this tree here, and they ask why hasn't it been removed? Why isn't it tidy? It looks messy. And I just want to talk about that a little bit, because actually features like this tree here are really quite important to rivers like this. And it can do an awful lot of good being left into the river. One of the things it does is helps reduce the rate of erosion to the riverbank. So it stops the undercutting of the riverbank, stops production of a lot of silt that will ruin the gravels that the fish might want to spawn in. The other thing it's really good for is habitat, both for juvenile fish and invertebrates, so the things that all of our fish want to eat. So it's a really good nursery environment and larder on the river. Also, what it can do is actually reduce the risk of flooding further downstream. What it can do is slow the progress of floodwater down the river channel and therefore reduce the impact of prolonged heavy rain to places downstream. So what we ask ourselves is a tree like that a barrier to migration? Is it going to stop fish migrating up the river? And if the answer is no, and it's fixed into the riverbed, not likely to float away on the next spate, then we tend to leave them there. We like to monitor them to make sure that it doesn't change over perhaps the course of a winter. But at this moment in time, that is a really, really good feature to see on the river. And we need to avoid the temptation of tidying it up by tidying up the riverbank and removing that kind of stuff. It's another example actually of the value of woody debris as well. See this, wood in front of us here. What has happened is the flow coming around that has scoured out the riverbed here, which is why we've got this depth. What it's done is it's moved the light particles further on downstream, the lightweight particles, and given us this deep hole, which really is a nice feature. Just want to talk quite quickly about this plant here. This is Himalayan Balsam. Obviously this is a juvenile. This can get to about 6 foot tall and has quite pretty pink flowers later on in the year. It's an annual and it's a real problem on some of our rivers in the West Country. What happens is the roots are very shallow, and what it does is outcompetes any other vegetation in the area. So when it dies back in the winter, it leaves the bank really exposed. There's no root system to hold it together, which means that the riverbank is really in risk of being eroded away during the winter spates. We really need to try and get rid of this plant. And the way to do it is quite simple. It's an annual, so what we've got to do is stop it spreading seed. And what we do is we pull it before the seeds set in late summer. It's really shallow rooted, so to remove it is dead simple. We just pull it like that, and we can leave it on the side. The actual plant itself doesn't spread by doing that, it'll just die on the bank there. What the Westcountry Rivers Trust is asking visiting anglers to do is pull 25 stalks each every time you visit and see Himalayan Balsam. And if we all do that, we're going to get rid of this stuff fairly quickly. There's only 1 or 2 spots on this particular beet that has Himalayan Balsam. So if you see it, please pull it up, and hopefully we'll get rid of it fairly quickly. Just wanted to point some of this out. This is a ranunculus. I think it's Waters Crowfoot. Those of you that fish chalk streams will be quite used to this stuff. It's really pretty. Flowers a little bit later this year. You can see a few of them coming now. Flowers on the top of the surface can be an indication of rich, clean rivers. So it's quite interesting to see it here. This particular beet has always had some. It's a little bit late this year actually. We normally would see, particularly in these shallows here, a lot more of it, but it's still here, and I'm sure if I come back in a couple of weeks' time, this will be flowering quite nicely. But it's a good indication of a richer and cleaner river than perhaps some of the others around here. It's nice to see.